Okay, good morning, gentlemen. My name is Chase Goulet. I will be your instructor today. We're going to be going over Chapter 10 of Structural Search and Rescue. I'd like to ask everybody to please turn off all pagers and please silence your cell phones. We'll go over a few things. I've been in the fire service for about 10 years. Started as an on-call firefighter, went to part-time, moved halfway across the country, Missouri, where I'm now a full-time firefighter in the city of West Plains. Back corner of the room, under the exit sign, is our fire exit. If we have an emergency, you go right out that way. Through the wooden door in the back, down the hallway to the right are your bathrooms. And then if you go out the same wooden door to the left, go out to the front of the building, there's a designated smoking area. Also out to the right outside is a vending machine for drinks. And we're going to get started. So if you guys all want to open your books up to page 433, we'll be going over section 1, firefighter survivability during interior operations. Okay, so we're going to explain the best practices to ensure firefighter survivability. We're also going to recognize hazards, escape hazards, and rescue lost and trapped firefighters. Our situational awareness for search and rescue, we're going to want to communicate as much as we can. Everything from heat, fire behavior, spread, visibility, changes in smoke conditions, volume, and behavior. Continued on that. The locations of victims, occupants, your air supply, where the victims will hide, and their exit routes, and anything to make you suspicious of ceiling or floor issues that could potentially lead to collapse. What conditions should be reported to other team members and their supervisors during a search and rescue operation?
Changes in
Heat.
Small volume of behavior.
Small volume behavior.
Structural indicators.
Structural indicators. So there are multiple factors, and everything you guys mentioned was correct. So now we're going to move on to the next portion. So we're going to do personal preparation for survival. So obviously we're going to practice sound firefighting techniques and situational awareness. We're also going to practice our band-aid self-rescue, and then we're going to make sure us as firefighters and our partners have good air supply, and we're going in with at least 90% full. We're going to practice the basic skills until they become automatic. Next, we're going to practice basic skills, train for hazards, practice our air management techniques, so our slow breathing, and then practice our bailout or emergency evacuation techniques. So we're going to prepare ourselves mentally and physically. We're not going to go into a situation not having the right PPE. We're always going to make sure we have the right PPE for the right situations. And we're going to know ourselves and know what we have to do in the situation that we come across. Know your limitations of your PPE and air supply systems. Obviously, we don't want to pick traffic-related uniforms or hazmat situation. Obviously, we want to make sure our air supply system is accurate and our PPE is accurate for what we're going to do. So make sure you always keep an eye out for you and your partner, your crew, whoever you'll be working with on scene. Everybody's safety is everybody's responsibility. Listen to your team member, work as a team. Obviously, nobody listens to anybody, we're not going to get anything accomplished. Follow orders thoroughly and ask for clarifications if you're not sure or if it doesn't sound right. Obviously, we don't want to get argumentative, but if you're not sure what you're doing, better ask than not. Okay. Something to think about. PPE has its limitations. It will protect you from certain hazards during your search and rescue operations. Like anything else, PPE can fail. There's no its limitations. Okay, so next we're going to practice situational awareness. Richie, what was the warning that we just put out?
About PPE,
And what about
you done the limitations?
it? Yes, sir. Okay, next we're going to look at the signs and keys of fire behavior indicators and any rapid fire development. We're going to listen, feel, and watch for changes in the environment. Obviously, we think the environment's getting too bad. We can't be in there, so it's time to get out. So some things to think about with your vision. Disorientation, so issues, judging, getting lost. Fear, obviously it is what it is. Fear is inside. Panic, we're going to try not to do that. We're going to try to relax, take deep breaths, and then claustrophobia, it's scared of small and tight places. So, overcoming the effects of the visual is we're going to try to remain calm, control our breathing, take that extra second if you need it, get your bearings back, maintain situational awareness. So, if we don't know what we're doing and we don't know what's around us, it's hard for us to help other people or help our partners. Stay in contact with your partner. Contact can be easy as holding the back of the boot so they don't get away from you. Tapping them, talking to them. Focus on your assigned task. So focus on whatever duty you're assigned, whether it's search and rescue, interior attack, exterior attack. Relay on your senses, and then obviously, if something happens at the end, you get hurt, you get stressed out, seek professional assistance. You go to a fire department chaplain, you can go to your doctor, you can go to your bosses, anything to help you. You can talk about it with your partner, debrief with your partner at the end of the incident. All right, review question. List 3 actions that firefighters can take to better prepare themselves to survival in hazardous conditions.
Practice basic skills.
Practice basic skills.
Make sure you're using the proper PPE.
Proper PPE and why? Why are we using proper PPE?
Because all PPE has weaknesses and you need to know what they are, so you're using the proper type.
Thank you, sir.
Stay in contact with your partner,
Stay in contact with your partner. Why is that important?
so you don't lose him. Fine.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about our Mayday situations. Okay. So during Mayday situations, we're going to think about air emergencies. So, how much air do I have? How much do I have left? And do I wait and request for the RIT team, or do I work through it? lost and disoriented. So that's another good one. If you're lost and disoriented, do you work through it, or do you call RIT team and have them come find you? Entanglement. Entanglement obviously is going to be one that you're going to have to try to work through the best you can. That one can also be one that you can call a RIT team for, but you're also going to have to work through it. Rapid fire development. So it's getting too hot. It's going. Do I need more hose lines? And when I evacuate, am I evacuating? Or am I calling in more hose lines and evacuating? And then collapsing traps. Obviously, collapsing traps, we're going to have to call for rescue. So determining the environment remains for firefighters. So, no evidence of structural collapse, and heat levels and durations of operations stay within acceptable limits. So, this is the environment that we can still work. Obviously, there's factors that can change, but for now, this is what we're seeing. This is an environment that we can work. So, when environment changes shift, we're going to have spread and temperature increase unexpectedly, sudden and fast. Structural collapse or unsecured stability and failure of the building, or buildup of heavy smoke and products of combustion. So what that is, these are all things that can change very quickly. And if we don't monitor it, we can have an issue. So when it becomes unsafe for us to work in, personnel have to be alerted. Personnel should evacuate or take shelter in a safe haven and contact IC and notify of either evacuation or the shelter in place. IC always needs to know what's going on, especially when there's an emergency and we have to shelter or we have to evacuate. He wants to make sure everybody's with their teams and is safe. So if you're out or if you're in, he knows, so he knows what has to be done to make sure you guys are safe. Okay, so identifying safe havens. Obviously, our firefighters are here. Anything right here with the smoke is not a safe haven, especially the fire one. So, 2 crews coming in. Got a victim here, looks to be conscious, and a victim here to be unknown. Both are in safe haven rooms with the doors secured. Does not look to be any smoke or fire. So, occupants may be in the hazardous environment areas, or they may be in safe havens. Firefighters should use door control and safe haven as survivability procedures. Because this door here will give you a little bit of time. It's better than nothing. So we're going to notify IC if you seek shelter in place in a safe haven. Yes, sir.
Did we go in and get the victims before we put the fire in?
In this case, we're gonna try and get the victims. Since right here we have 2 teams. One team can attack fire, the other ones can perform rescue. Obviously, if you come across the victim, you want to make sure you notify that you have located the victim. And if you have enough manpower to completely bring them out and have enough crew to still attack the fire, that is recommended. But if not, victim rescue is a priority, life over property. Any other questions?
So is this saying that we should use those areas for self-rescue or to keep ourselves from getting injured, say if we have an air failure or something, those safe havens are something that we're supposed to utilize for ourselves.
The safe havens can also be used for ourselves. If everything is going right, we want to focus on our main jobs, which is first, rescue of life, and then protection of property and extinguishment. But yes, these areas are able for us to be used for a safe haven. Recommended is to use them as little as possible to be able before exit. So if you can exit first, that'd be your best bet is to get completely out of the building. But if you can't, the safe havens is a better spot to be if you have an issue than to be right in the same room as the fire. What hazards must firefighters be prepared to face during interior operations?
Entanglement.
Entanglement.
Rapid fire development.
Rapid fire development. What about collapse and track? Right. Air management,
Getting lost or disoriented.
loss or disorder, perfect.
Run out of water.
That could be an issue. So principles of air management, always know how much air you have left, know your point of no return. So, I have a tank on my back, it's at 4,500, right? I'm gonna use half of that going in, I look at my gauge, I'm halfway. Is that a point of no return? Or is that a point of turn around and head right back up? I'd say that's a point of turn around and head right back out. You go in 3/4 of the way, use 3/4 of your tank, you have a quarter left, that's a point of no return. That's definitely going to be, you want to notify IC, you want to call for it, or make sure you get here. But we're going to try not to do that.
So you're not supposed to just work until your low air alarm goes off?
Correct. Because if you go in, you work till your low air alarm goes off, it's not guaranteed that you'll have enough air to turn around and come back out. And we don't want to put anybody in this situation.
So maintain good situational awareness and know how long it's going to take you to get out.
Exactly. So, once that's done, and we're on our way out, once we get out of the building, we're going to inform IC that I have, me and my partner are out of the building. So, checking the pressure gauges. Obviously, we're going to do it before entering the IDLH environment. We're moving from one area to the other after heavy workloads, when rested, and before or after an assignment. We always want to make sure we have the right amount of air and the tank is 90% before we go to the so how much air is required to exit IDLH? So IDLH is immediately danger to life and health. Lowest cylinder gauge reading of any team member. So if I have my partner and me, and I'm at 3,000, and they're at 1,500, their 1,500 is going to be the one that tells us to go up. So the lowest gauge is going to be set. I have the amount to keep working, and they should exit, but I'm not going to stay working when my partner has to exit. We go as a team, we come in as a team, we leave as a team. Obviously, we're also going to check out our SOPs for this authority having jurisdiction. and environmental conditions, and team members' physical and mental conditions. So if your team member is breathing heavy, you know your team member is going to go through air a little bit faster than you might, that's something to think about. Or are you breathing heavier than you should? So you're going to go through air faster. Then obviously environmental conditions, the more harder you're working, the faster you're going to go through it. So, a warning, air consumptions widely vary from individuals to individuals. A cylinder's operating time is not an indicator of actual operating time because of these variables. So, you all take in and give out different amounts of air, depending on our breathing, depending on our condition, everything else. So just because the bottle is rated for 45 minutes, for 30 minutes, for 60 minutes, does not mean you will get 30, 45, 60 minutes out of each individual bottle. Okay. Air management and emergency. So never leave your team. That is the biggest thing. If I'm with my team and I start going low on air, I go out with my team. Everybody goes together. Nobody's going to be left behind in an ideal environment. Never leave, as I said, never leave a team member in the hazard zone. Because we are one unit, we move together. And then maintain communications with your ICU supervisor. So, obviously, if you have any air management issues or any other issues of priority or emergency, or even when you're done with your operations, everything should be communicated. Engine 1, we're coming out of the building. Engine 1, we're low on air. Engine 1, we have a 4 collapse. Everything you do needs to be communicated. Engine 1, we've completed our assignment. So what we can think of during an air emergency. What comes from it? So, to use in those situations, we're going to stay low to the ground and ensure valve is open. Opening the bypass only as needed or directed by your SOPs. So obviously, if you have a critical failure and you stop getting air, you can open your bypass. You should get it. Malfunctions should be fixed, so bypass. Obviously, in an emergency situation, they can't always be fixed, so they might have to be bypassed. Once you get done with that, make sure you notify command or your supervisor of the attack malfunction or issue. Make sure it gets taken away from the scene and placed out of service. And make sure it gets repaired. And use air sharing techniques as SOPs allow. So, air sharing techniques, your bottle and pack with your partner's bottle and pack, or your pack and a RIP pack. Those are your two most common air sharing techniques. Obviously, we never want to have a RIP pack come out. But when we need air, your RIP pack will be your best friend. Okay. So, more possible solutions to an air emergency. If trapped or disoriented, stay calm, activate the catheter device, and control your breathing until rescue arrives. So, what they're telling here, stay calm, activate your pass, and control your breathing until rescue arrives. So that sounds to me more like a shelter-in-place kind of situation. Especially if you're trapped or disoriented. Mayday situation. A mayday situation. So, activating our pass will alert firefighters in the area that you have an emergency. Hopefully make it easier for them to find you in a stressful situation and in very hazardous conditions. Control your breathing until rescue arrives. because you want to control as much air that comes out of that tank as possible and use as little. The less you use at the time, the more time you have on that water. So if the SCBA regulator is inoperable and air remains in the cylinder, you can open the bypass valve to provide positive pressure and breathing directly from the cylinder. So for the Scots, little red nozzle, little red turn dial. For the draggers, the red pushing dial on the side of the mast. Just like when you're trying to fog your mask, little turn or click, you get that air coming in. And if air runs out before rescue arrives, and there's no other options, create a gap between your chin and your mask to take a breath as needed. Obviously, this is the very last situation. We do not recommend this as much as possible, but this is your very, very last option. If you're having an air emergency, try to shelter yourself from the ideal leak environment if necessary possible. So going back to what we were talking about earlier in your question, the shelter rooms. Doors are sealed off, safe haven. Doors are sealed off. The air should be a lot cleaner in that room, especially if it's completely sealed off from the fire environment. And if anything, it keeps a barrier away from you, between you and the smoke, the fire, the flames, the heat, for as long as possible. And hopefully, be enough time for a rig team to come in and bring you air with a rig pack, or be deciding, hey, here's a window, I'm going to go out this window and we're going to evacuate, or the rig team's going to come and get you and you guys are all going to leave together. Okay, review questions. What are the 3 key principles of air management?
Checking your pressure gauge.
Okay, checking your pressure gauge,
Control your breathing.
control your breathing.
Know your point of no return.
Know your point of no return. Okay.
Right.
So, conserve air, increase time you have to escape, and improve the chances that others will be able to locate and assist you. Okay, so I did hear you asked for a break. We're gonna do about 3 to 6 more slides. We're gonna get to section 3, structural searches, and we'll take it from there. So next we're going to learn about shelter in place. So during shelter in place, sometimes the only option is to stay calm, breathe slowly to conserve air, and stay low where temperature is cool. Obviously we want to communicate everything that we do. We're going to want to activate our pass device, listen for sounds, includes, that would prove where your location is. Isolate yourself from the fire department. So, obviously we want to be nowhere near the fire. And the best place we can do it is put something between us and it. Walls and doors are better places to be than in the same compartment of the fire. So, call Mayday, report that you have an issue. You can always shine a light through windows and doors to draw some attention to yourself. And you can make noise. Slapping on the floor.
Make noise. Shine your flashlight on the wall.
Alright, gentlemen, getting a little bit ahead of it. Hang on for a second, please. So what action should be taken if it is necessary to shelter in place?
Activate the pass button.
Activate your pass device.
Remain calm, control your breathing.
Remain calm, control your breathing.
Shine the flashlight out the window, doors, and all that.
Yep. Shine light, make noise. Call for mayday. Get out of the fire. Okay. What type of emergency situations would require a firefighter to shelter in place rather than escape?
Run out of there.
Running out of air.
Structural collapse.
Okay. So, Richard, running out of air. If you find a window or a door in that same room there, you're going to, or trying to shelter in place. Would you shelter in place or would you rather escape?
Well, it depends on what floor I'm on, but if it's a very level floor, I'd probably go out the window.
Now, going on that one, if it's an aerial device, if you're on the second or third floor and an aerial device is available, you could also do that. Exit out that way onto a tower, stick.
Right, I was living on my location.
But yes, other than that, shelter in place. Dave, did you have a comment?
That is structural collapse.
Structural collapse, exactly. Obviously, if we have structural collapse and we can't get out, our only option is to shelter in place. Bud, do you have anything?
My thought was along the same lines, but you come in a certain way, and that's your only egress, and that gets blocked, then that would be a shelter in place situation. Or if you're
Perfect. Okay. So, we're on learning objective 3. Learning objective 3 is our structural searches. So we're going to take approximately a 10-minute break. It is 8:45. So we're going to return 5 minutes before 9. All right, so we left off on learning objective 3. So we're going to describe structural search and rescue operations. Yes, sir?
I went home, Jeff, but where is that in the book? Because I got air monitoring next to you. We already covered that one?
Yeah, we finished that up right quick.
Oh, did we? I don't remember.
So objective 3, describe structural search and rescue operations. That will be on page 450 in your books. So, NFPA reports in 2015, during structure fires killed more than 3,000 civilians and injured 15,000 more. Would have been worse for potential victims if firefighters haven't located and removed from the burning structures. So, training aids and knowledge for structural searches, methods, preparation, safety guidelines, fire containment procedures, markings, and primary and secondary search techniques. So these are all factors included in your operations. So search methods also include wide area search and event enter isolated search. Sir? Mind putting your phone away, please? So, search preparation, know who you report to. Whether it's a lieutenant assigned over you, or if you go right after, if you report to IC, operations chief, whoever you report to, just know who you're reporting to. Make sure your portable radios are turned on and working and set to the correct channel that you are assigned to. Obviously, it doesn't nobody any good if you're on channel 1 and everybody else is operating on V-Fire 21. SCBA is turned on, working, and contains a full cylinder of air. So, obviously, when we turn it on, we also want to listen for our low air alarm to come on and our pass device to activate. And as it says in the future, pass device is turned on and is working. Obviously, if our low air and pass device don't work, we have a problem, so we need to let everybody know this and get another pack. Don't assign duties in tactical objectives. Be aware of alternate means of egress. So, doors, windows, bulkhead, garage doors. Gather knowledge of the building's floor plans. As we go over in the fire building construction chapter, there's many different floor plans and little tricks and tips to tell you window alignment, like if window alignment doesn't align up, you know, it's a blueprint construction, and so on and so forth. And all the necessary tools and equipment, possible entry, tools, rope, assertions, wide area, etc. And tools, tick, flashlights, so you want to make sure you have plenty of everything that you're going to need. So building floor plans. Obviously, we got a building floor plans, hallways that divides each room, interior doors, exterior windows, exterior doors. So during that, you want to conduct an effective search. Firefighters must know the layout or floor plans. This knowledge may come from inspections, pre-incident surveys, architectural plans, and personal observation. So, without us even knowing it, we're doing floor plans and personal observation in our own head every time we go somewhere. As firefighters, that's a good habit to get into. Because you walk into building X, as depicted on the screen, we may never go there, or we may go there all the time. But if you've gone there once, you already know some of the building. You already have an idea. So when you come on that call, you have an idea of how that building is set up. So, tour buildings under construction. Your crew, your company, Go out, find a building that's under construction. Talk to the people building it. Go look around, walk around. Obviously, we want to have helmets on. If we're going to be walking into a building that requires hard hats, just to protect ourselves. Yes, Richard?
Safety glasses and shit, or your shield.
Yep. If they're cotton, they're sawn, anything, debris floating around, glasses or shield on your helmet is always a recommended process. And if you notice anything sharp and stuff laying around, you always want to have your gloves on, you want to have your protective boots on. Duty boots or bunker boots. Especially if your duty boots have steel toes. So, it also allows you to meet facility owner and occupants and become familiar with the contents, floor plans, building construction, and manufacturing processes. It also lets you find and help you to know where the exits are being built. And then just taking a look at different structures in your area. Whether you have a residential district, you may not have any major commercial buildings, or you're in a commercial area. You may not have a lot of residential in your first two districts, or you may have a combination of both. But there's different hazards in each kind of building. Know your zoning, know your emergency response. You can go to real estate offices, you can go down to the county and talk to them about zoning. Figure out what areas are zoned as commercial, what areas are zoned as residential. Also, gives you time to get out. You get out, you get to know the streets in your area, get out with the public, and then you get to get more familiar with what's in it. So, tools and equipment, like I brought out, the flashlights, thermal imagers, or TIP, thermal imaging camera, portable radios, flexible entry tools, so flat-headed axe, Halligan, sledgehammer, charge hose lines, ropes, search lines, whether it's a wide area search or just a regular search of a residential building. You always have connected means of egress. You can follow a rope line just like you can follow a hose line out of the building. And ladders where necessary. So, attics, you may need a small attic ladder like this gentleman has on the screen right here. So the thermal imaging camera allows firefighters to see sources of heat through darkness and smokes, used to locate victims and hidden fires, and identify temperatures. So this is great, but we also have to remember, if this thing is out of batteries and it's not charged, it's not going to work with us. And it might also get harder to see because, yes, they were great, but with heavy, heavy smoke, if it's here, you might have to put it right against your mask to see anything through it. Unfortunately, that's the world we live and work in. So, thermal imagers, they enhance situational awareness, they improve visibility in poor environments, provide additional information during search. So, information they're providing is stuff that we can't tell normally. So, this wall, I can't tell if there's fire behind it normally if the fire's not broken out. But the tip can give you an idea if there's heat sources behind it that we can't tell. Just being us. Also gives you temperature, so you see the temperature, you know that temperature's rising in there. That temperature keeps rising, it may not be the safest place for you to continue to work. It may be time to evacuate. May be useful in locating victims at the scene of fire or in fire. Limitations: cannot detect the person under or behind furnaces or on opposite side of the wall. So, unfortunately, we can't go through walls with that. But cannot see through water, glass, or reflective surfaces. So, may not be able to detect fire below carpeted floors. So, with thermal imagers, we always want to follow the manufacturer's recommendation of the device. We also want to follow NFPA standards 1408 and 1801. 1408 is a standard for training fire service professionals in the operation, care, use, and maintenance of thermal imagers. It is an electronic device. They will have defects, just like anything else. They're not 100% perfect or guaranteed, but they are an extremely good tool to have and use. The NFPA 1801, the standard of thermal imagers for the fire service. So, obviously, inspection and maintenance, we want to check it, replace batteries as needed. So obviously, if there's no good batteries in it, it's not helpful to us in any way. We want to make sure they're clean. And report damages and malfunctions immediately. The faster you report damages and malfunctions, the faster your department can send it out, get it repaired or replaced, and put it back in service. So, we shouldn't 100% rely on thermal imagers to tell us about fire locations of victims. They may fail under fire conditions, but they're still very useful and provide good information during interior operations. What should firefighters do to prepare for search and rescue operations? And what tools and equipment do firefighters use in search and rescue operations? So we'll start with this one. We'll start with number one. What should firefighters do to prepare for search and rescue operations?
Being good mental and physical health.
Good mental and physical health.
Know who you should report to.
Know who you should report to. What about facilities? Knowing the facilities, or trying to get the floor plan, or talk to someone who currently works, or the owner of the building, or even better. If you pull up on the scene and there's a maintenance employee or custodian, janitor in that building outside, and you see him in his button-up uniform with his name tag, you can go ask him, "Hey sir, can I get a little bit of information on this building?" They're probably going to know the layout a lot better. They'll know where all the panels are. They'll know where the doors are. They'll know if there's any hidden rooms or very locked or high security room. And they may even know what's in the building. In this room, is there a lot of flammable liquids? Is it a manufacturing facility? And is there ammo and explosives stored in one of the rooms in the building? They'll know the floor plans too, which will help you, even if it's just a drawing on a piece of paper. They'll give you a better idea than to have no idea at all. And what do you need? What do you need to bring with you? Or what should you think about to bring with you?
Flashlights, ladders, axes, breaching tools, halligan axes.
So, yep. So that rolls right into that question. And yes,
Hoses,
rope,
charge.
hoses, yes, sir. Rope, ladders, flashlights, portable radios, all that stuff. Okay. What type of equipment is used in your jurisdiction for search and rescue?
John chose one, search mode, flashlight, or one G camera.
Is there anything from the last slide that you guys have in your jurisdiction that wasn't mentioned?
Pre-incident surveys.
Pre-incident surveys. So pre-incident surveys will let you know.
We use a
But-
program called MSP, and command can use that. And pre-incident surveys been done on the structure to make better strategic planning according to the building layout and as it was presented.
So that's perfect. Computers with information on them to tell you. That's a piece of equipment. All right. So we're going to be moving on to search and safety guidelines. So obviously we don't want to enter a structure where survivors are not likely to be found. So the whole fire service is risk a lot to save a lot, risk little to save little.
There's nothing to say what is already lost.
So if you observe that fire is blowing out the bottom of a windowsill in a structure, so the full window is fully engulfed from top to bottom, there is little to no survivability. If you're lucky, 2 or 3 feet between the floor and that bottom of the windowsill. Unfortunately, the survivability is very low.
Where your 360 comes into play when you arrive on scene, so you can identify any compartments that might be survivable, then enter search.
So doing the 360, you can use, if you do find a compartment, you can do vent, enter, isolate, search. Obviously, then the window, enter, isolate that room, get the fire out of it, and then search it. And that could bring you out a victim that may not have a chance to survive in the other rooms if you can isolate that door from them, and the fire from them. So create protected areas, avoid creating additional flow paths in the structure. That's where the door isolation comes in. Bless you. Okay, so we want to maintain control of exterior doors to control available ventilation to the fire while firefighters are conducting searches, and if possible, rapid fire development. No. So, like everything else, we open the door, we get low, we go in, but we want to make sure those doors stay closed if we can without them locking. Controlling the door controls the flow path, but it also does no good if you need help and crews are trying to come in and now they have to break that door down to get to you or help you rescue the victim out of that building. So try to control the door the best you can with also not adding danger to what you're doing. Obviously, there's already danger in what we do here. We don't want to add more undue danger if we can avoid it. So, with rapid fire development, do not attempt entry, coordinate fire control and ventilation. Excuse me. So, before we enter, we may have to send a hose line in to cool some of the environment or clear a path for the search team to come in and do primary and secondary searches. Obviously, with ventilation allows visibility. So, obviously, we don't want to freelance. We always want to be with our team, and we always want to get assigned an order, a job, or a task. Obviously, the hazards of freelancing are you can get hurt and nobody knows where you are. And that's a big issue, because firefighter safety is key. Firefighter safety is number one. If you're hurt, we can't use you on the fire ground to potentially save someone else or save a life out of the fire or any other reason. So maintain radio contact with IC. This has been a big one throughout this whole presentation, is maintain radio contact. If the IC doesn't know where you are, he doesn't know if you're safe. He doesn't know where you're safe. He doesn't know you're safe. That's more stress you're putting on him. That's a big worry for him because he has to make sure all the guys are okay. And like I said again, obviously if you're not safe and nobody can find you, now operations have to also divert to looking for you. Monitor radio traffic for information or changes in orders. So obviously, we always want to monitor it because there could be important traffic like structural collapse, heavy fire, flow spread, and smoke changes in conditions. And if they change your orders, you can get diverted from a search to an active rescue. Continue monitoring fire conditions. So obviously we always want to monitor change. If you catch the change and you know it's not for the better, you can notify that to IC. IC might have to switch up his action plan. Or you can help yourself before something gets worse. Hey, partner, it's getting too bad in here. It's very unsafe. Let's back out. And use the department's personal accountability system. So, we're going to tag in. So, that eliminates a lot of the freelancing. The freelancing still happens, yes. But it eliminates some of it because you're already starting to use your personal accountability system. So be aware of entry points and secondary means of egress. So, not just for yourself, but for victims, for other crews coming in, for other crews coming out. If you know there's a door on the C side and you have moved from the A side toward the C side and you need hose line, crew can come in and they'll be a lot closer for them to find you than having a track all the way across from the A side of the building. Wear full PPE, including SCBA in your pass device. Obviously, we always want to keep you safe. We want to keep you healthy. We want to keep you breathing. The SCBA will help provide that. Pass alarm will help provide location. And if you stop moving for approximately 30 seconds, it'll start going off. So it'll tell us, hey, something's going on. We got to figure out what it is. So work in teams of 2 or more and always remain in physical, visual, or vocal contact. So obviously the physical contact, hand on the boot, hand on the harness, physically touching them. Visual, not always possible due to fire environments and heavy smoke conditions. And then vocal. So me being able to talk to you. If you're a little bit closer or a little bit farther, you always get your radio.
You can talk now for a minute.
Yep, and on some of the new systems, you get the headset. Obviously, with that, you want to be visual contact too. If you start diverting to Team Talk or the radio, but there's always multiple means of knowing where your partner is or where your team is. If you encounter fire, close the door and report the conditions. So, isolate the area. If you just closing that door keeps the fire to one room, you just eliminated a lot of the issue. You eliminated it from potentially spreading. And now it's something for your team, your host team, to come in and attack while you guys conduct your primary searches in the rest of the building. And then, obviously, we want systematically searches. We don't want to go here, there, everywhere. Work in the system. Whether it's right hand, around the room, left hand, and that's where building construction will also help you. There's multiple different hallways, one hallway at a time. Don't go jump in random hallways. Try to keep in order with what you're doing. And that's also where the loss and disorientation comes in. You do it systematically, it's less likely for you to get lost if you don't come off that wall. So, where visibility is limited, stay low and move cautiously. So, obviously we want to stay low, because everything up here is bad, everything down here is better for us. So, we want to move cautiously, because you don't know what's ahead of you, you don't know what's under you. So always move slow, check your floors, a little bit of sounding. You hear something that doesn't sound right, stop. Double check, make sure it's safe for you to work. You find a hole, you don't want to keep going. That won't be a good day for anyone. And hey, you're moving slow and low, you might find a victim. You're up here walking around in the smoke. I can't see my feet. What's around me? Is there a hole in the floor? Did I just walk by a victim? So, and then obviously, if you can, mark doors, and remember the direction you turn to. So, we'll go over marking doors in a little bit, but there's a marker, you have spray paint, piece of tape.
Probably looking at
Spray paint would be more for like building collapse, searches, and urban search and rescue. But there is still a possibility that we can use in the fire service, but it probably wouldn't be used in a live fire environment. When visibility is obstructed, maintain contact with a wall, clothesline, or search line. So, rope, clothesline, or wall. You can follow each three of these. So, have a staff charge clothesline available when working on the fire floor or floors immediately above or below. Obviously, the charge clothesline on that floor will protect you and help mount on the fire if you come across one. It also gives you a good way out. Like everybody knows, smooth bump to the pump. You follow that clothesline right back out to the pump. Coordinate with IC and ventilation teams before creating exterior openings. So, you don't want to go around breaking windows, because ventilation is supposed to be in conjunction with fire attack. Obviously, we break windows, we unnecessarily kick down doors, punch holes in walls. We're creating a flow path. We don't want to irritate the fire any more than possible. Inform superiors immediately of any rooms that could not be secured. So, with that, securing the room, shutting the door. Could be as easy as shutting the door. Maybe the door doesn't shut. Notify your command or your supervisor. Report promptly to your supervisor once the search is complete. So, go through, tear your search team one command, be advised, search is complete. And then they can assign you to another task. So, list 5 safety guidelines for search and rescue operations.
Maintain communication.
use markers.
Do not relent.
Okay. Wear full PPE, including SCBA and pass device. Close doors. Stay low and move cautiously. Okay.
Monitor radio traffic for important information or changes in orders. Use the department's personal accountability system.
Okay, perfect. Now we're gonna go on to fire isolation. So, fire isolation is we're gonna be locating and isolating fire. Must be a priority before any search. May be accomplished in numbers of ways depending on circumstances at the scene. And locate victims, ensuring that the fire does not spread beyond the victims. And the origin room of the fire should be a high priority to protect victims and firefighters.
Can fire isolation and search be carried out at the same time?
Yes. Yep. Whether it's a crew with a hose line, but as you're going fighting fire, you might come across people. Or if you have multiple companies, you could have the first company come in, start fire attack, and then the team conducting the search could be right behind the initial fire attack, searching as the hose line goes. And then that's a perfect example, that if you have your first team with the hose line coming in and knocking on the fire, as the search team comes up and clears the room behind them, if the fire attack team finds a victim, now they don't have to exit the building with the victim. They can come up, retrieve the victim, and exit with them as the interior attack team continues to do their primary mission. So, marking systems. And as we were talking about, Richie, your good question that you brought up, markings. Marking with pencil, Sharpie, obviously right here.
Chalk or crayons.
Yep, but right here we're talking about the orange spray paint for
Which is search terms we have for reasons.
and latch straps. Latch straps, tape, anything to secure the door. So, obviously we want to effectively search the room. Search rooms can be marked using chalks, crayons, and markers. Latch straps over doorknobs. Markers should be placed low so they can be seen under smoke. Placed on the lower third of the door, lower third of adjacent walls, and landing of adjacent stairs. So, obviously, if it's a smoke environment condition up here, as firefighters, we're not trained to walk here. So having this decal up here, when we're down here searching, is not going to do us any good. We're not going to see it, especially if there's smoke. So we want to mark it low. We want to mark it low so when we're crawling, we can look at it and we find it. Excuse me. So, marking with latch straps, preventing doors from closing, which might trap search teams. Never block door openings with furniture. It can also contribute to the spread of the fire, and also is a fuel, like anything else. You're just giving, instead of taking stuff away, you're adding stuff to it. Never place marks inside rooms. You may already be in that room searching. You may be 90% complete finding it and already found that mark, and then found the mark and been like, oh, they might have just come in here and searched this room. So I just wasted valuable time searching this room when search team 1 just came through here. So hazardous can be marked as described and follow local protocols for marking systems. So when you entered, team is in, team is out. And then all your information. So, search team 1, date and time, what are hazards, rats, and total victims. 2 alive, 3 dead. So, what marking system does your jurisdiction use for search and rescue?
Use the X for structure fires, and then you got the additional info if it's like natural disaster, structural collapse, we're not on everything.
So, X's for structural firefighting, and then major X's in spray paint, and all the information for more urban and structural collapse searches. So, now we're going to move on to the primary search portion. So, intend to rapidly determine location of victims. Should be fast but thorough. You don't want to skip. You don't want to go too fast. You don't want to miss stuff, but you also want to go fast enough that you can keep moving at a good pace and cover a good amount of ground. May be performed before or during fire suppression, so primary search, secondary searches. So, then you come in, team 1 right here is doing a right-handed, team 2 is doing a left-handed, as they move and go. And victims could be in different places. Bedrooms, middle of open living rooms, bathrooms, hallway closets, under beds, in tubs or showers. Wherever the victim thinks is a good place to hide, they could be hiding.
Especially children.
Yes, sir. Especially children. Children may go right under their bed, which some of us might not be able to hide under completely, but child may be able to go under there like nothing and feel safer under there. It's also something we have to check. We also have to make sure we check underneath beds. Give it a nice sweep to make sure there's nothing under there. On top of beds, couches, baby changing beds, sit higher up off the ground. Check that.
You know, includes who they lines are supposed to be.
So these lines are representing the sliding and accordion doors of the closets
Makes sense.
versus the swing doors represented by the black lines, and the gray squares are representing the windows. So, primary searches, also quickly check. You also want to be thorough, but make sure you check everything. Check that the fire conditions that are not changing from the outside, and report any changes. Supervisor or IC will identify areas for you to search based on conditions and information at the scene. Always use your buddy system. Always work in a pair. Rescues working together can conduct safer and faster searches. Also with that, you having 2 people, that's going to help you. It's going to help you bring people out. It's a lot easier if you find a victim to bring it out with 2 people than with just 1. And keep visual contact with your partner. Speech, feel, visual. So, with primary searches again, second firefighter right here, you can see, a little bit hard to see, but you can see he's holding his angle as the primary firefighter searching with a tool. So quickly quickly check known and likely victim location, check fire conditions and reports, and stay in contact. So secondary searches, you want to move a little bit slower. Usually conducted after fire is under control. You want to make sure you double check everything. You want to make sure you don't miss anything. Ensure that everybody is out and nobody got overlooked during the fast, rapid primary search. And try not to be the same team conduct the secondary search as the primary search. But also you want to use the same system steps as the primary search did. Do not remove SCBA until it is determined safe to do so. So usually safety officer with an air monitoring system will come in and tell you when you can remove your air. What is the difference between a primary and a secondary search?
No, the primary search is like a rapid search, just go through, determine location of victims and stuff like that. Secondary search is slow and thorough, and after the fire is under control.
Exactly. So primary search, like Richie said, rapid, fast, during fire operations. Secondary, a little bit slowed, more thorough, and when the fire is under control. Okay, so now we're going to the search methods. Each department has its own procedures. You'll be trained to apply these in various situations. Most drawn on some general methods which can be applied to almost any type of search. Some specialized search, orientated search, wide area search, and search using thermal imagers. Search using thermal imagers is one of the most common types in a normal firefighting operations. And wide area searches are more for your commercial buildings. You may get a Walmart, a lumber storage facility, and that will be a wide area search. Or even a gym, gymnasium, convention center, civic center. That would be a more of a wide area search. So, left-handed search patterns, obviously, firefighters are going to come in. Using their left hand, they're going to search. They're going to come down. And they're going to search around the chair, over the chair, and continue. They're going to the wall, come up. As they come up to the bed, they're going to make sure they sweep under the bed and on top of the bed. And continue. Back out. And that will be their pattern across the whole area.
With like a recliner or something like that, should we take the time to move that out of the corner just to make sure there's not a victim behind it or something like that? Or just go around and keep it?
So, if you can move it a little bit, I'd move it enough so you can get in behind it. Obviously, you stopping to take the time to completely remove it from the room or from the fire area, that's an overhaul and salvage.
That's your secondary search pretty much.
But it's also an overhaul and salvage issue too, to do it. So if you can get behind it, go over it, check down, especially if you have a tool. You have your axe, climb up, put your axe over. Nice and easy, wave it around, check, see if you can bump into anything. If you're not bumping into anything other than the back of the chair, well, continue. Same thing with the bed. I don't know about you, I can't reach completely under some beds, like the California Kings, my arm is not long enough. So, same thing, tool, you're trying to, and while you're doing this, you always want to make sure if you go to a bed or somewhere that you can't see, you can't confirm. Fire department, is there anybody in here? If there's a little child under the bed, he might make some noise, or she might make some noise, she might say hi, she might call out, she might yell for help. Same thing with the bed, check over it, and then continue. So, just follow your walls. Remember your starting point as you enter the door, and work your way around. Keep the same direction as you're turning, and then continue into the next room. Remove victim to safety or exit the building. Turn opposite the direction you turn to enter. So obviously, if you find a victim here, go with you, bud. You find a victim behind this chair. Now you're going to do a right-handed search to bring the victim out. If you continue with a left-handed search, now you're dragging the victim into the unknown. At least this way, you're bringing the victim back out the way you've already cleared the building and searched.
Those rooms don't meet fire code because there's no secondary egress for those rooms.
Actually, good point. Good point. So in an emergency, there's no window. No other means of escape other than this primary door. So you're going to have to backtrack, go all the way here. Okay, so searching the fire floor. On the fire floor, start search as close to the fire as possible and work back toward the entrance door, like we talked about. Reach those in greatest danger first. So, obviously we want to go for the highest priority victims first, because they will be in harm's way. People farther from the fire are in less immediate danger, so they can safely wait as teams move back toward it. But that also makes a good point on that. Victims in the fire area, if you can get to them, grab them, go. Because, like we were talking about, people in the safe haven areas, that gives them some time, especially if they're farther back in the building, or on the opposite side of the building. They're sheltered in place. They're in a better condition than the person closer to the fire is. So, to reach a point near the fire, we proceed as directed as possible from the entry point. Advancing hose lines or search lines will provide a way to remain oriented so you can exit quickly if fire conditions change. So, when rooms extend from the center hallway, both sides should be searched. Supervisors will decide search patterns based upon available personnel and scene conditions. So obviously, when teams come in, right side, go to right-handed search, goes in, searches the room, come out. Same thing with the opposite, left-handed searches. Comes in, comes out. We have two teams there, each side of the hallway doing the search. This one team search. They're starting one side of the hallway and working in each individual room across the whole hallway, and then coming back and working the opposite side of the hallway. Now, something to notice here. They're searching it, and they're not just stopping and crossing. They're not taking their hands off the walls as they're doing their search. Because obviously the very, very fiery conditions, we don't know what's around us in the first place. But them keeping their hand on the wall, it's giving them a path. can get lost and disoriented in a very open space if you have nothing to follow and you cannot see. Plus, we don't know if there's holes in the floor. We don't know what surrounds it if you can't see. So, one of the search methods, always control egress passageways to search. Teams can escape if conditions rapidly change. So you can also stage firefighters at doors to rooms to be searched. Should control door to control the flow path into the room. Close doors to rooms adjacent to passageways after they've been searched. Position hose teams at intervals along the path to cool gases. And use tech to aid in searching of rooms and hallways for victims of fire. So, good practices to get low to the floor and perform quick surveys. So, obviously, they keep it low, smoke and heats up here, so we're staying low. We have more potential to be able to see down here than up here. So, thermal layering, it's the smoke produces clear area of vision just above the floor, and victim obstacles or general layout of room may be identified more quickly. If you encounter extreme heat or cannot see your feet through the smoke, you should not be walking on it. So, obviously, if I'm getting too hot up here, I'll go where it's cool. Do I want to be up here? No. I want to be down here. I want to be as low as I can. And obviously, if I can't see my feet, what's the issue with that?
Heavy snow.
Let's see where we go.
Can't see where I'm going. So, kind of backtracking just a little bit to what we were talking about earlier. What happens if I can't see my feet? What am I missing?
You lost or disoriented easier.
Lost or disoriented?
Not really a victim, because you walk right past them.
Walk right past the victim.
Walk into a hole.
And walk into a hole. Perfect. So, any of those things can happen, but we want to try to give ourselves the best advantage against it. So, heading down and doing your search low gives you that best advantage. So, search methods. So, here's a perfect example. I come into a bed. Firefighters have their tools, and this firefighter put the backside of his axe, obviously without the pointer part, but with the pointer part toward us, sweeped it under the bed because he knows he can't fit under that bed or he can't reach completely under that. So, with the search methods, victims may be found in paths of egress and areas where they seek shelter. Search the perimeter of each room, reach completely under beds and furniture. Like we said, we don't know who's hiding under there or where they are. Place tools against the wall and extend arm or leg to search the middle of the room. So, tools against the wall, you can reach out with your leg and sweep. Or vice versa, put your foot against the wall, reach out with your tools. That gives you an extended reach. So, my reach is only this much. If I put my head against the wall, I'm only this far. But now if I put my foot against the wall, I step up, I have this much. Plus if I had a tool that extends farther. So I'm getting a lot more reach and range of motion out of that tool by doing it that way than just that. So, with limited visibility, obviously we want to stay low. If we can't use our techs, may need to touch items to identify them and the type of room. So, you're searching a room, you're feeling, you hit something. Well, what is it? Where am I? You reach out. You feel something, feel a hole. Okay. Maybe it's a sink. Maybe I just stuck my hand in the toilet. So you just identified the room. You feel holes in the toilet, well, you know you're in the bathroom. So, search all sides of an object, like we said. If we can, obviously we can't pull a sink or a toilet completely off the wall just by ourselves. So, if we can, we're going to search as far around the items as possible. Obviously, we can't search completely behind everything. But we're going to do our best to search behind, on top, on the side, in the front, below, underneath, especially if it's back. Never move an object. And report square division to the IC. So, going back to this, never move an object. So, from that point, I was wrong. Don't want to move an object. So, using your tech, operate according to your SOPs, slowly scan at full level, then a higher level. So, your arm and your tech has full range of motion. Wherever you're looking, wherever you point it, is what you're going to get. Manually search beneath and behind furniture. Open doors to scan inside closets and cabinets. And screen may white out if it detects high levels of heat, allowing readjustment time before proceeding. So, obviously, we white out, you know that there's a big issue somewhere. Or, just be watching. But it always gives you something to think about, gives you something to identify. Is this going to be a problem, or is this a common item that's going to produce a lot of heat? Searching methods: maintain radio contact and report egress, close doors to uninvolved room, and clear unused hose lines or equipment from egress paths. So obviously, you put your tool down, you continue your search, you forgot about the tool. Second search team comes in. You don't want them tripping over it, you don't want them getting hit with it, you don't want them sticking themselves with it or anything else. So try to keep it all away, try to make sure you keep everything with you as you go. And have teams and other people clear stuff out that doesn't need to be used. It also keeps accountability of your equipment. So we're going to take this search. So, oriented search methods are an effective way for a team to search a room. Team leader remains anchored at the door, wall, or hose line. So we touched on this just a little bit, but this is where we're going to get deeper into it. Other members spread out through the room to search. All members stay in constant communication with the leader and each other and update leaders on their progress. They prevent confusion and avoid clustering in one section. Leader may use a tick to relay information in direct crews. So like we said, his normal body length with the tool, now this is his reach length. So his reach length is a lot farther out and longer. Okay, gentlemen, it is 10 o'clock. We're going to take a 10-minute break. So, be back at 10:10, please. Okay, so we just finished orientated search methods before our 10-minute break. So now we are going to wide area search method. So wide area search method sometimes used to conduct primary search of large or complex areas filled with smoke. So can anybody give me an example or two of a large complex area that we need? Walmart? A civic center? Yep. So anything big, gymnasium, a civic center, a Walmart, box store, any major commercial building, pretty much. Employs dedicated search lines, typically 200 feet of 3/8-inch rope to be used. Minimum of 3 team members required. Larger teams can be more effective, but obviously with manpower issues, it may not always be possible. About 10 feet outside of the entry point to search area, each search line is tied to a fixed object about 3 feet above the floor. End tagged indicating unit or company designation is left at that point. Just pretty much saying, hey, who's here and that this rope is secured. So Sheldon right here, they took their primary search lines and they tied them to a street sign. Attending, sometimes stationary at every point. So somebody's stationary at every point. Maintain communication with team and monitor their air management. One team member, usually called the lead, picks up the rope bag containing the search line and enters search area. Another member, the navigator, closely accompanies the leader shoulder to shoulder. So we have our lead on the front of the line and our navigator side by side with the leader. And directs the lead using a hand light and, if available, a thermal imaging camera. One or more searchers equipped with radios follow them. Each searcher carries tether wrapped around one wrist, forcible entry tool in other hand, and as team progresses into the building, searches line flanks. All members maintain contact with the search line. So, here's your searchers that they were talking about. Obviously, they're going to do exactly what their name does, and they're going to search as the team moves through the line while they're staying in constant contact with the line. So next, we're going on to markers. Should be created at regular intervals along the search line to indicate distances. So, knots can be tied as you go, or knots can be pre-tied into the rope. Tied in the line works as a common marker. May be tied before it is used to create rope dedication in those searches. So, if it's tied before, you already know the intervals that it's tied at prior to doing it, and especially if you train on it, you're already going to know this. Steel rings can be attached to the line wherever knot is tied. Indicates distance from beginning of search line, and always just beyond the ring, so they provide a directional indicator. Not towards the fire, ring towards the exit. We're kind of just like doing the hose line. You find the smooth and then the 2 bumps, you know you're going toward the bump. If you find the 2 bumps and smooth, you know you're going toward the fire. Just like the ring with the knots. So, tether line. Can be attached to search ropes at regular intervals. So pretty much right where those rings were, you can attach these lines off. So it makes kind of like a tree, branches off, but always brings back to the main tree, down to the roots pretty much. Usually corresponds with the tied knots in distance, how far the firefighter is up. Enable team members to search areas attached to the search line. Searchers can be used tethered to guide themselves to search line. And when searchers return to search line, they disconnect the tether and carry it out of the structure. When team members move off the search line, they must stay in voice contact with the navigator. So, the navigator is always the one to know wherever it is, and you stay in contact with them at all times. Searchers work in a large area. Air monitor is more critical than in other types of searches, because you have more people farther out, so you either have to make sure you have air with you, or you have to make sure you have enough air to get out. Navigator regularly updates incident command, reporting fire condition, what team has found, and how many knots into the building they have progressed. So next is my personal favorite, one of my personal favorite items, is vent, enter, isolate, search. Vent, enter, isolate, search is a growing technique, and in my opinion, one of the best.
So this is like the structure, like a residential type.
Yep. So VEIS stands for vent, enter, isolate, and search. So pretty much as the name says, we want to vent, window, door, enter the room, isolate the room. Once you find the door, isolate it, shut the room off, and then search it. So, intended to provide rapid search of individual rooms that can be accessed from the exterior, usually through a window. Usually chosen as a tactic when there is a credible report of possible victims in a survivable area of the structure. It should only be initially following a 360-degree scene size up. So obviously we want to get the biggest picture, and we want to make a survivable room for vent, enter, isolate, search. Rooms that are involved with fire or show indications of backdraft or flashover should not be searched with vent, enter, isolate, search. Because obviously everybody knows what happens when Joe Smo comes up and breaks out the window when it's already sitting in a flashover condition or a backdraft condition. It's no good for anybody, and it's not going to do us any good breaking the window and trying to jump through the window in those environments. And like anything else, going back to that, know your limitation of your gear. Our gear is not rated for flashover and backdraft conditions. So only areas that appear survivable and are unlikely to have fire extension when ventilated should be searched using these techniques. So 2 firefighters, 3 if they're using a ladder, can perform vent, enter, isolate search. First searcher ventilates and makes entry. Second searcher, or second firefighter, may enter if desired, and remains at the point of entry to guide searcher back to the exit. So, I can remain on the outside of the window, or if requested, I can step inside the window. So I have the window behind me, and if my partner needs help or anything, we can go right and come back. And should maintain verbal contact during room searches. and use other means to draw attention to the exit point for the searcher. So, if it's a flashlight, a little bit of a wave. So, here we go, we're going to the vent part, right up here in the first upper corner to the left. From the ground or a ladder, vent the window that will provide entry to egress for victims. So, right here, the firefighter is breaking the window for entry to egress. If window is on the ground floor, open or remove window from side rather than standing directly in front of the window. After venting, observe smoke behavior in the room and use TIC if possible to gauge survivability of room's temperature. Temperatures that are above 162 degrees Fahrenheit, high enough to burn skin, unlikely to be survivable for unprotected victims. So 162 degrees Fahrenheit or 72 degrees Celsius. So this room's over 162 degrees Fahrenheit. Survivability is very low to nothing. So next we're going to go with so enters the upper right. The firefighter is going to enter the room through that now open window. Search the area. Attending firefighter stays at point of entry, should maintain verbal communications, and should be prepared to guide searcher back to the entry point. If ticket is available, may use it to provide additional information about the room to the searcher. So this gives them a perfect example that guy, the window, can see more than the searcher might be able to see, and give relaying information. Hey, go to your left, I see a victim over there, or there's a heat source over there. Go to your left, check it out. So now, help control the firefighter and help assess the firefighter. So now we're going to isolate. So in the bottom left-hand corner, the firefighter enters, finds the doorway, and isolates it to secure the room and keep more fire or smoke from coming in for as long as possible. So, were you having a question?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, no problem. Sorry.
No problem. So, searching firefighters' first priority is locate the room to the door and close it. Assuming caution when used in selecting the entry point, searchers should have time to find the door and close it before the fire moves toward the ventilated room. So the flow path gives you a little bit of time to get in and close it before the flow path is fully pushing the fire toward you. With the door closed, room is isolated from fire, and as it says in the paperwork, flow path is closed, so room becomes more survivable. So this not just helps the victim, this also helps you. Because having that open may clear up a little bit of the smoke, and keeps the fire out. So now that that is secure, we're going to now move on to the search. So, firefighter's here, in this picture. Now he's going to start his search. Firefighter uses his right hand. Shoot down the wall on the door. Now, that one's completely secured. Now he's going to use his right hand to search. And as he does, goes into the closet, finds the victim in the closet. And like everything else, everybody wants to go to a place that they're going to think is the best and the safest. Closet. So, searchers should search the room for victims found. A, attending firefighter may enter and assist with rescue, and should communicate it with IC. So, this firefighter right here, he's around the windowsill. Now he's able to leave the windowsill a little bit and help bring that victim back. Personnel outside of the structure will be needed to assist with removing victim through the window and possibly down a ladder. If no victim found, searchers should leave through entry point, leaving the door closed. So, a lot of the times, your parents always would say, leave the room the way you found it. Well, leave whatever the way you found it. In this case, we're going against that. We're not leaving it the way we found it. We're going to leave it the way we left it. So, isolated and secure.
Make the conditions better for your plan.
Exactly. As Bud said, making the conditions better in that room. But not just that. We're forcing the smoke and the fire to be contained a little bit more. So if we can contain the fire easier, that's less fire that we have to go chasing through the building. That's a more effective fire attack and knockdown.
To quote the fire marshal, better leave out.
So, vent and isolate search is not intended to be the first step in large structural searches, only intended for rapid rescue of victims or isolation of individual rooms. Now, the flow path, you're gonna have time in a smaller room to do that. But you go through a window or a warehouse, are you gonna have enough time to isolate a 200 by 200 foot room? Probably not. So firefighters should leave once room is isolated and search is completed. So room has been isolated, your search has been completed, whether or not you find a victim. Once your search is complete, exit. That room is done. Room is out of play. So, and then isolate search, rapid search, where victims are in the survival area, should be at the sizer. Room involves a flashover or backdraft is a no-go for vent and isolate search. And only use where survivability areas are likely. So, here we go, caution. Room integrity is key to a successful completion of vent and isolate search. Verbal or physical contact is necessary to allow the searcher to leave through the entry point. So, that person at the window, either outside or directly inside the window, is responsible for making sure and helping their team member find that door. Sorry. Excuse me. How do thermal imagers or TICs aid in search operations?
They can see victims. Can't think of the word.
They can kind of see the smoke.
Right.
Heat sources?
Heat sources. There we go. That's what I was.
Perfect. Yes, TICs can see heat sources through smoke where our eyes cannot, giving us a better opportunity to be able to find victims. What is the difference between a wide area search and oriented search? Dave?
The amount of room that you're having to cover of oriented search is going to be more for a relatively smaller area as opposed to a wide area search. That's the name, and the techniques and tactics are going to be different for each.
Exactly. Different tactics, different areas.
One you have to spread out, find a way to spread out and use techniques for spreading out, and the other one you don't have to worry about that so much.
What does the VES acronym stand for?
Vent, enter, isolate. Oh, sorry. Did you point it in? I'm sorry.
But
Then enter, isolate, search.
perfect. Vent, enter, isolate, search. Okay, discussion question. Give an example of a situation that might require the use of an oriented search technique, and then give an example of a situation that would require the use of a wide area search technique. So who would like to take the oriented search technique?
I think we're-
Dave, go ahead.
So that's going to be your run-of-the-mill primary search in a residence, or, in a type of structure that doesn't have wide open spaces inside it. A residence, apartment building, maybe a small business.
Okay. So now, who would like to take wide area search then? Richie?
It could be like a factory, Walmart, shopping center, civic center, stuff like
Yep. So we have hit that question perfectly on the head. Appreciate you guys. So now we are going to move into victim removal methods. So if you guys want to turn to page 465 in your textbooks, we're going to describe victim removal. Victim self-evaluation. Evacuation, sorry. Most occupants can evacuate either on their own with minimum assistance. You may have to direct them to alternate exits because as humans, everybody goes in one way and that's automatically what people think to go out the same way that they came. So, directing them to alternate exits, close stairwell doors to maintain integrity of exit paths, and establish safe haven away from structure where occupants can be accounted for, treated, and interviewed. And actual duties will depend on staffing levels and local SOPs. What duties might a firefighter have if a victim is able to self-extricate? Go ahead, Richard.
that. If a victim is able,
Yes, sir.
directing them towards the exit away from the fire.
Yep, that's one of them. Anybody have a second one?
Establishing a safe area, safe haven, the victims to go to.
Perfect. Okay, so now we're getting to the shelter. So, shelter in place, moving victims to protected locations within the structure. Used when hazards is minored. So, if we come up upon a minor issue, instead of evacuating, especially a place where victims are going to need more assistance. Can anybody tell me a place where victims might need more assistance and it's not the best idea to just try to get everybody out of the building, Richard?
Yeah, like the high rise, if they're in a wheelchair and the elevator is not usable, when the alarm goes off, don't the elevators shut down? No, that's right. But anyway, so like if they're in a wheelchair and stuff like that.
So like nursing homes,
Nursing
hospitals, elderly housing facilities that have a lot of victims that need help, yes. You're exactly 100% correct about that. So, safer to keep victims inside. Victims are incapable and cannot be moved. Limited staffing to assist with evacuations. And structures can provide protective barriers between victims and hazards. Especially in higher level buildings, like a hospital or a nursing home. They are more protective and fire rated for longer extents. So, exactly, common in hospitals, nursing homes, correctional facility, high rises, high risk, and industrial sites. Protected locations may be either predetermined during incident size-up or chosen based on size-up. Determined during pre-incident surveys and chosen based on the scene size-up. Only supervisor or IC can make the decision to shelter in place. And if you observe any conditions that might influence safety of this method, report it immediately. So, shelter in place and fire.
So if you shelter in place in a situation like that, are you gonna have a firefighter with a radio stay with them so they can monitor conditions?
I am not gonna tell you the answer that I don't know, but I will look it up and I will get back to you on that. In what type of situation would sheltering in place be used instead of evacuation? Richie?
The limited staffing to assist with evacuation, the structure can provide a protective barrier between the victim and the hazard.
Exactly. Perfect. Thank you, sir. Okay. So now we're going to go to victim removal techniques. Victim removal required when conditions prevent self-evacuation and sheltering in place, and victims are directly threatened. So, you may have to extinguish fire that has cut them off from an exit, provide alternate exit pathways, remove debris from pinned victims, and carry injured or unconscious victims to safety. Injured victims should not be moved until they have been assessed and treated, unless they or you are in immediate danger. Primary danger, possible of aggravating spinal injuries. In extreme emergencies, victim's life becomes first priority. Never pull the victim sideways, even in an emergency. Instead, pull along the long axis of the victim's body. The victim on the floor, pull victim's clothing in the neck or shoulder area. So, as this picture describes, he's pulling from the top using the long axis of his body, and he is not trying to drag the patient sideways. Obviously, we don't want to drag the patient sideways, especially because we don't know if he might have a spinal injury, or even if we know he has a spinal injury, it's never going to drag him sideways, especially because of that spinal injury.
They tend to fit through the door easier. You go long axis.
Exactly correct. Dave made a perfect point of that. A victim is easier to get pulled through the door straight than to get turned sideways because your body is stretched out, so you're not going to be able to fit through the door going sideways. So next, we'll go over lifting. So use proper lifting techniques. Keep back straight. Lift with your legs, not with your back. One rescuer can safely carry a small child, but 2 to 4 may be needed to safely carry an adult. Like we hit earlier, when you have the team, use them. Don't try to do stuff on yourself. You just have more likely to cause injury to yourself. Safety guidelines: lift as a team, focus on keeping your balance, support your head and neck, and avoid unnecessary.
Sorry, excuse me.
So, on that portion of it, never drag or carry a victim through Never carry a victim through hazardous zone unless there's no other choice. So obviously, we always want to take the safest route with the victim because unlike us, we have air protection and we have the SCBA to protect our airways. They do not. So we want to try to find a place where the hazardous environment is little to none. Common types of carry and drags are incline drags. Enables rescuer to move victim up or down stairwell or incline. Especially useful for unconscious victims. So, incline drag, right here. Firefighter stands up, wraps arms underneath the victim's arms, and crosses and grabs at the wrists. Webbing drag. Correction. Extremity lift carries enables 2 rescuers to move any victim. So, extremity lift carry. One firefighter grabs right around the knee in the leg area. The other firefighter does the same technique as incline drag, and both firefighters pick the patient up and walk out the patient. Webbing drag, rescuers pull on a section of webbing wrapped around the victim's body. Useful when heat and smoke force you to stay low, and victim is down. Firefighter wearing SCBA. So right here, you can see the webbing wrapped under the victim's arms. And the firefighter grabs the webbing and drags the person in line. So just like we do an inline drag, except you have webbing to help you with it now. Cradle in arms and lifts carry. So this one is going to be used to carry children or small adults. Not practical for unconscious adults. Victims' weight and relaxed body, and difficulty in supporting head and neck. So we're talking about this one right here. Cradle, just like you hold a baby. Same thing. Hold it, carry it. Okay. Next one will be seat lift and carry. Enables two rescuers to carry conscious or unconscious patients. So right here, patient looks like he's sitting down. Firefighters go on both sides, come up, boom. Now they are carrying. And last but not least is the litter carry. Long backboard is common. Other types include standard ambulance cot, army litter, basket litter, scoop, or Stokes basket. Similar techniques are used for moving people into litters regardless of the type of litter. What methods can be used to remove victims from hazardous situations?
Incline drag.
Incline drag. But you do lift carry, but extremities carry.
Webbing drag.
And are there any questions about this content? Well, gentlemen, appreciate your time sitting through the lecture and the presentation. It is 10:44. Would you guys like a break before the test, or would you guys like to go right into the test? All right, we're going to roll right into the test then.
Is this an open book test?
No, sir.
You were taking notes, right? Absolutely.
Okay, so tests are going to be handed out. Please write your name and your date on the top of the test, but please do not start. Everybody should have a pen on their desk. So what we're going to do is you guys are going to have question test. It'll be written. Today is December 14th of 2022. Your first and last name complete, please. And during the test, once you've completed the test, you guys can bring the test up here. and you guys can go and take a break until the test is completed. Once the test is completed, I'll bring you guys back in once it's graded, and I'll hand it back to you guys. Do you guys have any questions before we start the test? Okay, you guys are all set to begin? Good. Thank you, sir.
50-degree Ritchie's test.
Okay, gentlemen, I will be handing back your tests for you guys to take a look at real fast.
Must not have been too tricky.
Mr. Perfectionist.
Actually, one of those I would have probably answered wrong had it not been for the lecture. I was going off of old thought of it. I was like, no, I remember we were talking about it.
I almost put B, but then I was thinking, or even in an isolate search.
Are you on 8?
Yeah.
Is that what he wants?
That's
what I missed too.
Yep, that's the one I was thinking, and I remembered the discussion part of it. I'm like, oh, let's start the fire, we're going back.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm gonna now hand out your practical skills sheets for you guys to take a look at.
I still don't like that, because of the fires at the back of the house, you're not gonna go back to the back of the house and start your search.
That's what I was, this time, last time.
Please put your names first and last on each page on where it says student names, but do not fill in any of the rest of the packets, other than just the name category, please. I'm going to be recollecting the tests for submission. And then, after you guys complete the fill-ins of those, we will take a quick 5-minute break, and then we will go out and do our practical evaluations.
Is there just 2 where you put your name on?
There should be, yes, 2 sections. Should be, number 34 and 36, each has their own name section. Yes, skills sheet 34 should have one, and skills sheet 36 should have the other.